This is the season of You Talkshow, where putting yourself first is always in season. Life is bound to suck at times, and that's why I've created this podcast, where you can learn tips and tricks to navigate the suck. Together, we grow through seasons of singleness, seasons of sadness, seasons of celebration, seasons of hope, and also seasons of nope. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. Welcome to this episode of the season of You Talk Show. Today we have a little bit something special going on. Today I'm going to share with you the interview that I did with Emily Hayden. Emily happened to interview me on her podcast, and if you are new here, you are going to love this episode. You get to learn a lot of things about me, a lot of things about why I used to suffer from anxiety, how bad it was, my depression, all that good stuff. So if you're new here and you struggle with mental health, you are going to love this episode. So, okay. So we're just going to let it start playing. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I'm your host, Emily Hayden, and today we are joined by Miss Megan. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Happy to be here.
She is not a first time on this show. She's actually been one officially and then a second time as well. So welcome back to the Evolve with Emily show.
I am so grateful to be here.
So let's give people a little bit of background so that they know who you are. First off, you've been staying at my house for the last month.
Yes.
So let's backtrack a little bit and share the story of how you and I first got connected.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I had always I have this weird ability to connect with people I've always wanted to connect with. Mm-hmm. And I really think I just started because I was like, I have no friends. And so I wanted this girl to be my friend so bad.
Am I the girl?
No. Oh. This was long before you.
Look at me. I think it's about me.
No, this is long before you. And it was on AIM Instant Messenger. And she used to, every time she would come on, it would moo. I know this is real life. And I would be like, oh my gosh, I just want her to be my friend. And then I charmed her into being my friend. And then it just kind of stemmed from there. So I have this ability, and I always have since I was younger, to manifest people into my life.
Hold on. Do we even know that this AIM person was a girl?
Yeah. We were
how?
Because she was my teacher's daughter.
Okay, you know who she was in person.
Oh, yeah, she was real life.
Okay,
this is
different.
Before, I don't think you could add, random people. I didn't. I was very safe.
Okay, anyway, so we knew this girl. She's a real girl.
She was real. She lived 10 minutes away from me.
Okay.
She was real and safe, and her parents fed her, not a stray child. Okay, not a stray cat. So I was like, I really want her to be my friend, and it all worked out. She was my friend, and then I was like, Megan, good try, but she's not really for you. So then that went on and it grew, and then I manifested my significant other, which is wild. Mm-hmm. I walked into the store he owned, and I didn't know who he was, and I was like, I'm going to be with the man who owns this. And
how did you know?
I don't know. I just literally walked in and knew. And then I was for 4.5 years.
I need to try that.
and then you said you needed an assistant, and I was like, well, I think I have enough tools in my toolbox. I had won one of your challenges, and then I saw you at the Olympia, mm-hmm. and I was like, okay, I got 2 things of ammo, her email address and a photo. We're going to send those with a please hire me and all the reasons why I'm capable. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened that I was moving to California the next month. So it all worked out, and it's so crazy because when I think about that part of my life, it's all like a blur. And then I just think about you as a human and me as a human, and we came together and we did great things. Mm-hmm. But this version right now is so beyond anything I ever could have imagined, mm-hmm. because we're just so evolved into people that we were we knew we could be, but we mm-hmm. were just still working through it. And I can't wait until the next time I see you when we're even better.
I mean, hopefully it won't be 5 years again. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I want to get into, is just your personal journey of evolving, right? I remember different things from us working together back in mm-hmm. 2016 or 17, whenever that was, and just kind of the transformation of what I see now. right?
Yes.
You're the host of the Season of You Talkshow, which is an incredible podcast that everybody should go listen to. You're a tool and a resource for people to go to for mental health. You talk about a lot of things that come from personal struggle, and you're so open and vulnerable about it. Like, so much so to where I'm like, that is so honest of you to just put it out there as you're dealing with it, you know? So talk to me a little bit about your transformation over the last couple of years from when we worked together to now. Maybe you could name like 3 major shifts that you feel you've had in your life, whether that's habits, patterns, mindsets. Could you name like 3 major shifts in your transformation?
Oh, yeah. So when I had met you, we were living in California, and I really had culture shock. And that is when the start of my steamrolling depression happened. Mm-hmm. And so it was just going downhill. And then my nephew was sick, but we didn't know with what. Mm-hmm. So then I was always had anxiety, but then it got amplified. Mm-hmm. And when I was living in Las Vegas, 2 years after I was working with you, I wouldn't leave the house. I was petrified to leave the house. So then,
really quick, sorry, I want to get into that because there's probably someone listening that feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fear behind that? Like, help me understand.
Everything. I wouldn't go to the mailbox. I wouldn't go to the apartment gym. I thought the second I walked out the door, someone was going to steal me. I thought that I was going to be stolen. I thought that I was going to never come back. And I thought the only way I was safe was when I was with my significant other.
No way.
I wouldn't leave. I was literally petrified.
Can you identify when this fear started?
Yeah. So it really honestly came from me being in a relationship where we both had no other friends. I had so many friends before, and then I was like, bye. I don't need those. And then I disappeared. And I always tell people, when your friends disappear, they're not okay. Mm-hmm. You literally need to go help them because they are not okay. They will say they're okay, but they're not. And I'm dealing with this right now with one of my close friends, gone, asking people to rent her house because she doesn't want to be there anymore. And I'm like, this is insane, but I just want you to know I'm here for this, but I need to ask you, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Is this really what you want? And at that point, I had no one else. And on top of it, I was being rejected over and over and over. I was rejected like with my body. He didn't want me. He didn't want my time. He didn't want anything. So I'm in this apartment working from home all day. He's gone, comes back, doesn't want me. Like there's the only thing going on in my head is this tune of you are not worth it. You are ugly. Why? Why even try? Just don't even try. And so that's where it got really bad. But then I got this opportunity to move to California to get a promotion. And we weren't doing great, but we weren't like broken up yet, but we both like knew it.
Yeah. I hate that stage. Everyone's been in that stage before.
And he was like, well, go, Megan. He's like, I won't be mad. And I was like, okay. Can you like help me move though? Can you help me? And he's like, yeah. So he drove all my stuff to California and left me there. And that's where the problem really started, because then it was literally just me and my thoughts and my depression and my nephew getting sicker and me being anxious, and going to work was a chore. Literally driving to the office and going inside was hard. Mm-hmm. And I literally don't wish it on anyone, because it is painful when everyone's like, oh, you want to do this after work? You want to do this? You want to do this? I'm like, I know you don't get it, but getting here was hard. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I don't ever expect anyone to understand, because it's a place where nobody wants to be. But then I would go to work and I would leave in the middle of the day and just go cry in my car and then go back. And nobody ever knew the amount of tears I'd wiped off my face before walking back inside. Mm-hmm. And then I would just work for 12, 14 hours because I had nothing else to do. Mm-hmm. And there was free food. So I went for the free food, and because it was somewhere I could put my time that was constructive, because when I was home, I would just lay on the couch and literally do nothing because I was so depressed and I felt like I had nowhere to go. I felt so unalive.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a rough place to be in. So you said that people don't understand, right? That it's hard for you to go to work and to show up, and they're trying to invite you to things and you're like, I literally can't do that. So how could somebody support someone who's experiencing that? And I guess the first thing is they would have to know, they would have to recognize and be able to see that they're struggling. But like you mentioned, like no one has any idea like what you were going through. So is there any tips that you could give for people for recognizing someone that's in that spot? And if you're that person in that spot, what advice would you give to them in order to allow people to show up for you?
Yeah. So I also had one extra thing added on top, which was that I asked for enough money to be able to live in California and just like literally like barely survive. So I asked for a raise and it was enough so I could live in California, like live in an apartment I felt safe in, but that meant I had no extra money. And so when people would ask me out for a $9 lavender latte, I was like, go fuck yourself. I can't go. Like, you want to buy it for me?
Yeah.
Like,
That's real.
It wasn't something that I was willing to give leeway to because I was like, I need to pay my bills. And I was also just in a very lack mindset, I should add. But if you're in that space, what I recommend doing is getting out and doing something that gets you outside of your house, like for a walk, just not very far. Oh my God. One time I was on a walk. This is how bad my anxiety was. There were 3 helicopters and I thought they were coming for me.
Did you really?
Oh my God. I jumped a fence.
Stop.
No, real life. And my friend was like, Megan, helicopters cost a lot of money. They're not sending helicopters after you. But that's the dark point I was in. I thought everything was coming for me.
Wow.
And so
talk about that, like victim mentality, victim mindset.
It was just anxiety.
Yeah.
It was just that I am a target. Like everybody looking at me is coming for me. And it's not like I'm a victim or I expect anyone to feel bad. It's that, listen, I am here and the guy behind me is coming after me, the guy in front of me, the guy crossing the road. Like I literally would go into full body like every single time that I walked outside. And
how did you go from that to this person that you are now, right?
I realized there was a choice. I realized that my anxiety was a pattern that I'd created over and over and over again. And it came from one of my good friends saying, Megan, you don't need anxiety. And I was like, what do you mean? I am anxiety. He's like, no, you're not. You're separate. And he was like, you don't need that. And I was like, I have to go to a meeting. Da, 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 da. I was like, God, I'm so nervous. I'm going to get fired. He's like, Megan, they're weekly one-on-ones. You're not getting fired. He's like, but go in there. He's like, take a deep breath, expect good things and see what happens. And I was like, you're right. Nothing bad happened. But it took me over and over and over of being anxious, nothing happening. Being anxious, nothing happening. Over and over and over. I say probably about 130 times before I said, oh, this is real. Like this is real. And anxiety is a choice that I'm making. I don't know I'm making it, but it's a pattern and I can choose something else. Wow. And I didn't know that there was a choice until I saw that I could choose something else, because when you don't know there's another option, you can't choose it. And I didn't know, because everyone I know was like, oh no, anxiety. And anxiety is like kind of categorized as cool these days. And I'm like, it's literally the most uncool thing when you're in it. And I learned that anxiety was a choice and I could choose something else. And when I learned that, I slowly peeled off the layers of my anxiety one at a time. Now, I will say there are still some where I still get a little like anxious, and it's conflict that still does it for me. Like it electrifies my inside with bad things. But for the most part, I can live my normal life in a way that I would have never been able to. And I can recover so much faster, even if something does happen, because once you say, okay, I have a choice, I get to choose. Now you actually have to do it. And then it's like, okay, well, I didn't do that great, but what could I have done better? And a lot of it was, I would get, let's say this is an example, I would get text messages and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what it would say. And then I wouldn't read it for days and I would give myself the anxiety. And now I challenge myself the second I get a message that I don't want to open it. The second I get phone calls to answer them, this and this and this. And it just comes from a point of, I have nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of because everything I was afraid of was created in my own mind. And I know there's this quote, and it's like, the people can talk about you online all they want, but the worst things if you have anxiety or mental health is what you say to yourself.
Yeah.
And I was putting myself in such a bad place. And when I realized that, it took 2.5 years for me to get from the place of crippling anxiety to a place of I can live my life at about 15% anxiety when I was literally 99%.
Wow. That is night and day difference.
I would wake up and be anxious. And I remember the first days I would wake up and not feel anxious. It was like the best thing ever. And so that would be one of the largest shifts, was understanding that I didn't need to have anxiety, that it was a choice and that I was choosing it, even though I didn't know. But then I knew I had another chance. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to pick that one. And I'm going to try it, because there's nothing worse that can happen. So if that's you, and because I also didn't want to go on medication. It's something that I'm not here for, mainly because I'm such a sober human. Like, I don't like to live my life not feeling like I'm in control. And I mean, I wasn't because of my head, but for the most part, I was like, listen, I don't want that, because I always knew inside that if I could change it. Like, I knew that this was something that if I needed to fix it hard enough, I would find a way. And I did. And I will say, if you want to heal, if you want to fix your anxiety, if you want to go through anything like that, you need to just look at your life from a completely objective standpoint. Now, this is something else that was happening. My logical brain was on vacation. That bitch hadn't worked since 1993. I mean, honestly and truly.
Well, if you think the helicopters are coming for you.
My logical brain, I never used it. I still barely use it, but she's back from Fiji now, but I truly I never used my logical brain. And I always like to give this example because, again, people will think it's crazy, but I high-key thought my roof was going to fly off one day because it was so windy. And then it happened multiple times where I told my friend and my therapist, I was like, listen, this roof going off. Okay. Like, I know you guys like say it's not, but it is. And my therapist was like, okay, Megan, what are 3 facts you know about that? And I was like, well, I'm like, the house was built relatively recently.
Stop.
And I don't know anymore because it's coming off. And real life. And then my friend was like, okay, Megan, your roof definitely weighs like maybe a little bit more than your car. If your car's not flying away, then your roof isn't going to fly away. And I was like, I like that. I can look at my car, understand that not even the garbage cans are flying away. And then I get that my roof is going to fly off. And I know that this is so wild to people who will never understand. But this is something that people are literally afraid to talk about. Because if you go to someone and you're like, oh no, I just had this crazy fear. And I think it's coming up a lot with postpartum moms. I know postpartum depression is really, really real, and the 4th trimester is real. I've never had a baby, but it's really showing me an entire new group of people who are struggling with this anxiety that they've never had. And it's like, hey, welcome. We can help, and it's one of those things where it's like, you don't want to tell people because you literally sound crazy.
I see.
And I mean, I'm okay with it now, but I have always been open to sharing. This is what I'm experiencing. I know it doesn't make sense to you, but in my heart, it feels so real. And some things I did was I have not watched crime TV in years.
Okay. Did you used to watch a lot of that?
Yes.
See, this is the thing. Anytime that I hear someone going through a lot of like anxiety, fear, depression, they're feeling hopeless, they feel like there's no hope for them in the love life. I'm like, okay, tell me all of your inputs. And they're like, what? I'm like, tell me what you're scrolling through, what you're watching, what you're putting into your mind every single day. They're like, oh yeah, I watch, killer, documentaries on Netflix. I, listen to this and I watch movies about love and all these things that I don't have. And it's like they're creating the perfect environment for all the things that they're experiencing.
Right. And so, no, I haven't watched crime TV in probably 6 years because I knew the impact. And so I stopped doing that, and I just started to focus on the things I could change. And it's been a slow journey, like I said, because I didn't believe it was real. But then I looked at my therapist like a month ago and I was like, we fucking made it. I was like, we didn't like make it, but we made it to the next level.
Right.
Like we passed that level. And I said, it's crazy because it's been 1.5 years since I've been back in Rhode Island and working with her consistently. And I was like, honestly, I didn't see every single week what was happening. I said, but I can look back now 1 year later and be like, wow. So don't give up. Because those small changes will literally add up in more ways than you can count. And although I'm not the most disciplined human, when it comes to me ridding myself of mental uncomfortability, I am on it. Because I don't want it, because I know I deserve better and I know I can create better for myself. And you can too. You know, anybody listening who's struggling, you don't have to live like that and it doesn't have to be that way. And nobody is saying that. And that's the thing where I'm like, that's why I have a podcast. That's why I'm here to share, to let people know and to connect with other people who are going through it and don't want to talk. I had this girl on and she said, when did you know you had anxiety? She's like, I was 5. And my dad picked me up, but he got a haircut and I sat in the back seat because I didn't think it was him the whole time and I thought I was getting kidnapped.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like, I'll literally never forget it. And she's like, that's the first time I had anxiety.
What did she not say? Like, hey, Dad, is that you?
No. I mean, she was just 5 sitting in the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
And it's things like that where like, so then you're like, oh, well, now I'm like, I just have it. And it's like, you don't. Yeah. We can get out. So
100%.
That was the first thing. Anxiety has changed tremendously. It's something, again, that I am not anxiety. We are completely separate. We are completely separate beings. We do not belong together. That is that. And I am me. And the life without anxiety is so much better. 2, I track my mood. It is the best thing I've ever done, especially while healing. I use this app. And it is beyond amazing. You get to track all of your how you're feeling. You get to track the types of day, if you worked out, if you interacted with people, and you get to see the ups and downs of what your mood is doing.
Interesting.
And 1 month I had 15 bad days. The next month I had 13. The next month I had 19. Now I have none.
Stop.
Real life.
That's awesome.
And so if you're like a data person, it's nice to see.
Did you say what the app was called?
No, I forgot. Hold on.
Yeah, check on your phone real quick.
Please hold. You know when you like look at something every day and you like just don't even
totally.
You don't even look. But I will say it is amazing. Sorry. I saw a bug. Let me see. I'm getting nervous.
Let's not bring the anxiety back. It's okay.
No, it's
they
okay.
can wait.
Please hold. Why can I not
take some deep breaths while you're waiting?
Oh, it's called Bearable. There we go. I don't know how I can
Bearable.
find it. It's called Bearable and it has a cute little bear on it. And honestly, there's a free version. So you can see like those are all good days. The yellow is bad.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, you'll be able to see like how you're doing and you're able to track it in real time. And it's Bearable, Bearable. And you can get it on your app store.
So I think that's really cool, actually, because sometimes people can get so distraught over a bad day, but it's like when you look at it as a whole and you're like, okay, how did the whole month go? And you see that you only had a few bad days and you had a ton of good days. I think it'll allow you to take those bad days, so to speak, a little less heavy than if you just get to a bad day and think like, why is the world ending? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Start questioning your purpose. You know, I think sometimes people take those off days like just so heavily. So hopefully something like that can, you know, help them to look at the brighter side.
And I also like it too because it asks me twice a day. And in the morning, if you're having a bad day, I'm like, oh, I can change it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like I can change it around.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice to see. Also, I realized I had Pmdd, which if a lot of women don't know they have it, but basically around your period and when you're ovulating, you get intense depression, you get mood swings, you get rage, you get this. I don't really get rage, but my depression hits hard, like in a way that I never knew was possible. And I always just thought, oh, it's just is just me. And then we were tracking it and we saw it was every month, the week before my period. And I was like, okay, this could be something. And then I realized what it was. And so it just allows you to understand your body and realize that things are not just happening by happenstance. You know what I mean? Like there's a cycle for the most part. And if you're able to identify it, then you can fix it. And so tracking my mood was really, really great.
Okay. And then, so what was the third major shift or transformation that you feel like you've had?
Okay. So I joined this group and it was like a 10K in 10 days group. And it was run by someone who I really, really like. I joined just because I was like, I was fucking so uninspired. And I was like, maybe, fingers crossed, this will like do something to my insides. Because I was just so like, I was just going to work. This isn't me. Like, that's not who I am. Like, I was just going to work, you know,
comfortable,
just doing whatever, doing
quo.
nothing. And like, literally, that's not me. And so I joined this group just because I was like, sure, add me in. 9,000 group I'm in on Facebook. Yes. Awesome. So then I joined and then I started writing on my giant notepad, my giant little, you know, paper. And I'm like, oh, I have an idea. And I wrote the course and I built the course and I filmed the course all in a day.
Wow.
And then I had to get it approved by work and they denied it. And I was like, I love this for me. And I was like, what else can I do though? Cause I need money. I was like, listen, that's what I said. I was like, what else can I do? I need to make some more money. So like what was approved? And they told me, they were like, okay, you can do stuff within Clarity. They were like, that doesn't cross into us, whatever. They were like, you can do that. So I was like, okay. So then I just started like throwing stuff at the wall. And it was in those moments of me realizing and getting back to who I am, which is creating, that I was like, hey, I found a part of me that was missing that I forgot was missing.
Yeah.
And it just like lit back up. And then from there, it all stems into my podcast, which has brought me the greatest amount of joy I've literally ever had, mainly because I'm connecting with women and seeing them in a light that I never knew I could see women in. Like, it is just a light of just such depth and beauty and strength. All of the women who I have on are just armed in strength in a way that I don't know, that the listeners don't know, even though we've been around these people almost all of our lives, because everyone who listens to those episodes, like generally, like, you know, you go to school with them and all that stuff. And so they know them. And they were like, I thought one thing about this person. My light has completely changed because they're just like me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. And so just connecting and having people and doing that all for the greater good of helping someone else has literally changed my life in a way that I never knew because I wasn't expecting it.
I can tell that you wholeheartedly love your podcast. One, you're great at it. I feel like you're meant for it. But two, you're so passionate about it and you light up every single time that you even talk about it. Yes. And one reason why I really love podcasting is because I feel like today we are lacking deep, meaningful connections. And I think a lot of that comes from not having deep, meaningful conversation. And it's like, as soon as you put the phones down and you get on to record, you actually go deep into the things that really matter most to you, which honestly, I think these days just doesn't come up enough in conversation, or people don't pursue that enough in conversation. So I definitely feel you there. I think it's so beautiful what can happen when you have a conversation, a podcast where you hit on the deep, meaningful things of life. And yeah, you can totally see somebody in a whole new light. I remember the first podcast I listened to, it was actually Lori Harder. And I don't think it was the first one ever that I listened to, but it was someone who I'd followed on Instagram who I was like, oh, she's pretty, she's cute, she has a great business. She seems like we align in a lot of ways on certain things. And then I listened to her podcast and I was like, wow, I literally love her. Like, I just connect with her on such a deep level that I didn't know I would connect with her on. So, yeah, I definitely have experience with that as well, of just experiencing somebody in a whole new light, which has been really cool. Okay, so we talked about your major transformational shifts on your podcast. So let's get into that a little bit. You talk a lot about mental health tools and tips,
which is so funny because I didn't plan for that.
Oh, really? It's just naturally what you've been sharing.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like, it's categorized under like relationships, because I thought I was going to talk about like your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Nope. It's totally mental health now. So yeah, that was by accident.
What's the main feedback that you've been getting from your listeners after they've listened to some episodes?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I had the idea in October. It was out in November, and we're on episode 24, which is wild because I don't have a problem producing content, and I've never been able to stay consistent with literally anything when it comes to content. And so to do this and to feel so much support from people. And in the beginning, everyone comes out and like rah-rahs you on your first episodes. And then it's like,
yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is how we're doing it. And then so finally this last week, I hit the highest week I've ever had.
Woo!
And it was so exciting. And I was like, I don't care like about downloads, but it's nice to know that people are going to my podcast when I'm not posting about it.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing I'm happy about is like on a random Thursday afternoon, people are listening and not just when I post the link. And so that has brought me great joy, but people are loving it. They honestly love when I have people on and we just have normal conversations and they can yell at their screen. Like that's their favorite ones because they're like, I want to be there. And I literally say this to every single guest I have on my podcast. I said, listen, this is not an interview. I don't fucking interview. What I do is have a great conversation. Like the person listening is our third best friend. Now, I don't know you, but I'm going to get to know you. And so are they. And we're all here together because I know what it's like to not have friends. And I know what it's like to only have podcasts. And that is why I will not waver on that. Because my podcast is a point of connection for people.
Absolutely.
And I never knew that when I was starting. I never knew that this would be a place where I would process things. Now, I will say I do give it time to air out, right? I record the episode. I give it about like 2 months. And if I still want to play it, I will.
Wait, like,
you know what I mean?
Hold on. Like you don't post episodes for months at a time?
Yeah.
Why?
I have I'm backlogged.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have content created for I have 30 episodes just chilling.
Nice. Okay.
But yeah, so I do life updates that will get them in real time. So if people are real life curious about my life, but I also like to make sure what I'm posting is still something I want to post. If it is about, for example, the house thing, I need that to air out a bit. You know what I mean? So things like that I just like to let wait. But no, people love when I just get real and I share things. Like I shared this one about self-care that cost you $0 because I think self-care is a joke. I do. I think that what you put into your mind and your mouth and your eyes and your ears is self-care.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. The new pair of shoes isn't it. Okay. That's going to be over in literally a minute. Yeah. And so I shared that and someone was like, thank you. That was my actual favorite episode. And I wasn't even going to post it because I recorded it a while ago and I was like, why would I post that? And I was like, I'm so glad I did because I just like to be real and practical and share with you things that I wish I knew. I have an episode of my podcast about grief and I go through all of the things I did before my nephew died, during his death, and then after. And I've sent that to so many people as a tool for their grieving journey because I was so intentional about everything I did. And I'm so beyond grateful because I could have been so broken. I was broken, but I was ready in a way that I'm so grateful that I listened to my therapist and I actually went ahead and did those things. I always joke that me and my therapist are co-writing this podcast together.
She just has no idea.
She knows.
Oh, she knows.
She's like, how are our fans doing?
That's amazing. Good for her.
I go, you're in every episode, basically. Yeah. I was like, you're like the second main character. I was like, people are asking if you're taking availability. They do.
That's amazing.
I was like, but I told them no. I was like, you're booked. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't have my slots. Wow. I love interviewing podcasters because you just go and go and go. And I'm like, yes, give me all the gold. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's transition a little bit before we end the show. So I want to get into your main takeaways from living here for the last month or so. What are 3 main life lessons that you would like to extend to the listeners?
Yeah. I've been so grateful to be here. One thing I've noticed is I really am not great at discipline in a way that is so funny next to you.
I was going to say, people are probably like, you can't judge yourself against Emily, who I've practiced it a lot in my life. You know what I mean?
And I know we had this conversation.
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
said it didn't happen by accident.
Right. And it didn't happen overnight.
But I know. But let me tell you, I let myself slide.
That's different. Yeah.
And I can't do that anymore.
I
and
agree.
I realized that is something that is no longer an option to me. Like that is no longer something I will do, is just like letting everything I know I need to do, like the unfun stuff, but the stuff that will actually help me, like sitting in stillness and connecting to God and doing all those things. I always used to see them as like, that's like a maybe, right? Nobody will know. I'll just do it for a week and nobody will know. And I'm really good at the week thing. So now we need to get to 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks until it becomes every single week, every single day. And it's a non-negotiable. So really setting my non-negotiables is something that I really, really need to do. Also believing in myself. I think being here has given me such a unique opportunity to see Emily see me in a way that I don't see myself. And this is a funny story. So she had this flower arrangement on her table, and it was dying. Okay. And you'd at first you'd like sit at the table and you'd be like typing, and one would like a little petal would fall off, right? Then like a few days went by and you would be sitting at the table and you'd like put your cup down and like a few petals would fall off. Then it was at the point where you'd walk by and breathe and like petals would just fall off.
You're so dramatic. I
am not dramatic. That's real.
Dramatic.
And I said, Emily, this plant is dying. She goes, it's still got a lot of life left. And so I'm just here to say,
it's still got a lot of life left.
I'm just here to say,
it did. It had a solid like 4 days left.
And it did until you left, and then I threw it out.
I know.
And so the potential she sees in me is something that I'm just unable to see. And the flower arrangement was just a silly example, because that's truly how she sees everyone. Is just the potential that you could have. And I limit myself in ways that I don't even know. And so to be here and to see those ways that I limit myself has been truly amazing. And then I just think being touched by seeing such a boss ass bitch sit in stillness, I think was something that was really big for me.
Is it because it helped you realize the importance of stillness?
I didn't know it was an option. I literally looked at you the first day I was here and I was like, you can do this? Like literally, I could not believe it.
That's crazy.
I know you like do it, but I didn't know.
Why do you do this? Why do you do the little quotations?
Because I thought, I do it. But you go in.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that this was something that you can do and be so beyond successful in everything you do.
I think it's what makes you successful. It's what allows you to be in abundance and to have this mentality, right? That's what people think. They think that you're like making time for this and you have all this stuff. No, it's because of that time in that like secret place, that secret garden, that stillness, presence, whatever you want to call it, spending time with God. It's because of that everything else flows.
Yeah.
And it's out of that everything else flows.
And
people have it backwards.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I also came here and the first thing I said to you was, I want to not use my phone as much. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something I want to take with me as well, is the stillness, yes, and put your phone on silent and leave it somewhere. Mm-hmm. Because I, again, was just like, oh, no, I need it. And I don't need it. I don't need anything for it. And so those are probably my top main things that I'm going to take with me. And it's just been such an overall amazing experience to be here. And just to see, too, like, in your presence, how much I've grown in certain situations where I would have acted differently. Mm-hmm. And also being able to be around someone for a month, like, you have to be like, well, at least me, I'm like, am I annoying yet? And it's just been so amazing for me to face those things and us have real conversations and, take things down. Like, you're like, no, this. And we work through things in a way that I was having this issue subconsciously and I didn't even know until I was like, hey, you're right. Like, I'm not annoying.
Well,
this is cool.
I was going to say, it's like me coming up being like, just so you know, and I kept having this in my head, like, just so you know, I'm so happy that you're here. Just so you know, you're a light in my life. Just so you know. And I don't say those things randomly. Like I was hyper aware to the fact that I think you needed to hear those things and to just kind of be reassured that like, I love having you here, you know, extend your trip.
I'm so sad. I know. And so it's just been so great to be able to experience things, and I had no expectations for being here, like none. I was like, I'm gonna just roll up and see what happens. Yeah. And it honestly and truly, it's been more than I could have ever imagined. You know, there were some magical things that happened, and it just enlightened me to so much. It was like I needed this in a way of, okay, so I was here and I came to your house, and silently, with like no words, this door was opened, and now I'm into the next part.
That's so freaking cool.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense.
You opened that door for me, honestly, in a way that you showed me the door. Okay, so
I may have cultivated a loving, safe space, but you're the one that had to turn the knob, open the door, and walk through.
Yeah, I think you showed me there was a door, though. Okay. Because, like, I think, you know, I would look and it'd be like, oh, there's...
She was looking with her eyes closed.
There's something there, you know, maybe. I don't know. But I was able on this trip to walk through that door, and I'm very, very excited to see what is next.
So in going on in terms of that, how are you going to make sure that you continue to evolve beyond this time together?
That's a great question. So I'm going to make a priority to create intentional space. So this is actually perfect because I'm moving. And so I get to create an entirely new space. That's awesome. And I think that with all of seeing your spaces, I'm able to understand, okay, there are a few things that are non-negotiables. And for me, it's a podcast room and a meditation space. That I don't really care about anything else, because the podcast room brings me so much happiness. And then the meditation room is a place where I can go with no phone, nothing, and just be there. And I didn't have that space before, and I was always making it work. And when you make it work, it doesn't. You know, it works until it doesn't. And eventually you fall off because there's no real commitment. But when I'm literally in your living room and I'm like, I should really be in that meditation room right now.
Yeah, it stares at you.
I gotta go. Right. And so I guess just creating intentional space, also showing up for myself and holding myself accountable in a way that I've never have before. So yes, I'll mess up. Yes, it will be messy. Yes, it won't be pretty, but I'm gonna do it because eventually it will compound into me getting it right. Absolutely. And I'm okay to not get it right. And so I'm gonna try and try and try until I get it. And I'm gonna just, it's not an option anymore. And I think that's what I realized is there's me giving myself an out is no longer an option. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. And then I'm just going to continue to be fucking happy and nice because truly just watching the gratitude and kindness like pour out of you is just so amazing. And it makes me realize that you win so many more, you know, fights with honey than you do fucking, what's the wrong thing? Wait,
you win fights with honey?
Bees. You attract so many more bees with honey than you do vinegar. There we go. Yeah. And okay, I'm a very kind person, but you are grateful in a way that is like wholeheartedly grateful, and I just want to walk around as a beam of fucking gratitude. So
I love that so much.
Those are my 3.
Oh my goodness, I love that. It's been so beautiful to see you evolve throughout the years, but even just from this trip here, from day one of getting here, like, hi.
I was like, oh my gosh, so this and this. I'm sorry, I'm starting a house today. And then she's like,
let's meditate.
I'm like, I promise I don't. I sound like this. And she's like, yeah. Why don't you just come sit here? I was like, I don't meditate, Emily. I don't meditate.
I'm like, you can literally do anything for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I was
you can meditate.
I see a flying cat.
Yeah. I was like, okay, so that's where we're at.
Like, it's like psychedelic. But honestly, this month has felt like 3 days and
I agree.
So much more. And I'm just so grateful because it was just such a unique opportunity. And if anybody can take anything from this, and if you want to recreate this in your own life, it's create intentional space, hold yourself utterly accountable, and surround yourself with someone for a period of time who has these traits that you want. And I always say, and this is something I've always done, is get closer to the sun. If you want to be better at something, get near someone who's doing it, because you will get those traits. Like they will just become your second nature. And so if that's something you want to do, get closer to the sun, whatever that sun looks like for you, and you will see an instant change.
Wow, that's beautiful. Everybody subscribe to the Season of You talk show by Megan. And please do us a favor. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tag us both on your Instagram stories, tag the Evolve with Emily podcast page, and please tune in for an episode. Megan, it's been amazing having you. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being in my home. And thank you for being a ray of light in my life.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. And thank you for having me on this podcast. And thank you everyone for listening.
We only have one thing left to do before you leave.
Houston, we have a problem.
It's going to be very cold, and we're going to save it for an Instagram video that they will have to watch.
Oh, I thought we were talking about something else.
Okay, we have two things.
Okay, but
wait, we can tell them. Do you want to tell them?
We're going to NASA.
We're going to NASA.
And I'm so excited because when I had no friends, I would watch documentaries about the International Space Station and how they like to eat tacos because nothing falls out of the taco.
What?
Yeah, they like wrap it up in this like tortilla, and everyone they can send things up in boxes.
You're such a nerd.
Like a lot of them ordered sriracha, and sriracha gets sent to space.
Stop.
No,
wait.
real life.
So you're telling me Postmates goes to space?
No, but they send these cargos.
I'm kidding.
Oh, but let me tell you, they send these cargos and they don't wash their clothes. They just put them back in this thing and then it burns up in the atmosphere.
Stop.
And then they have to practice going to the bathroom by putting a dot on the bottom of their pants so they never miss.
Stop.
Yeah, it's real. There's lots of documentaries on YouTube if you're curious.
So Megan said that the one thing she wanted to do before she left was go to NASA. So we're headed to NASA tomorrow, actually, which is going to be incredible. And then we have another event that she's going to do before she leaves.
I can't wait. I'm ready.
That one's going to be the Instagram video. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.